One of 7 children born and raised on a Wright County farm, Dr. Everett Winslow Lovrien graduated from Sac City High School in 1949. Everett feels that all of the Sac City High School teachers helped him and guided him during his journey to young adulthood. He especially acknowledged the assistance of Principal Roy Jorgensen and teachers Eleanor Knoll, Social Science, Peter Lloyd, Industrial Arts, Marvin Rummel, English, and Marvin Bickle of Science in his development. After high school, Everett attended the University of Minnesota before joining the Army in 1952. For the next 2 years, he served as an infantryman in Korea, surviving the battles of Old Baldy and Pork Chop Hill. After Korea, he returned to the University of Minnesota, where he got his medical degree in 1959. He did his internship in San Diego, California, receiving the 1960 J.J. Jones Intern of the Year Award. Dr. Lovrien next became Chief Resident at Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C., before studying and becoming certified in pediatric genetics in Scotland at Glasgow University. His next stop was in Portland, Oregon, where he developed a medical genetics program, and in 1968, he became director of the Hemophilia Genetics Clinic. In 1978, Dr. Lovrien went on sabbatical, taking his whole family to France, where he studied and researched at the Pasteur Institute in Lyon. From there, he returned to the University of Portland to continue his research in the field of genetics, specializing in the disease of hemophilia. In 1996, he retired as professor of pediatrics, of medical genetics, and of child development and rehabilitation from Oregon Health Sciences University. Everett was married in 1956 and is the father of 7. Other milestones of his life and career include working on human genetics linkage and gene mapping. From 1966 until 1996, he was the principal investigator of federally funded grants totaling $20 million and was the co-author of 67 scientific and/or medical journal articles. He has written and published a book entitled Dr. Gill, Benefits of Medical Treatment Compared with Hazards, a trailer, about his experiences treating patients with hemophilia. Everett lives in Oregon.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me come back. It's kind of nice to come back and, without any law reinforcement or other kinds of qualities that were characteristic of me. The last time I was on the stage was when I was in a play directed by Mervyn Reynolds, The Importance of Being Earnest. And other times I was up here with Esther Opedal and the choir, but I was never very good in my choir, but I was the treasurer, so they had to let me be up and sing. As far as citing my favorite teacher, I would have to say they were all my favorite teachers, but probably as an example of what kind of respect I had for my teachers was an example when I was a junior in this high school and I dropped out. And I hitchhiked from Road to Rods to California, got a job with Lockheed Aircraft making the navigator's table for the P-2V2 medium-range bomber. I'm going to get your test of this afterwards. And how I ever passed security or had Social Security in those days, I have no idea. But while I was there, I received a letter from one of my teachers here at Sac City High School, and he said, Everett, you should come back and finish your school, and if you do, I will tutor you to catch up. That was Eleanor Knoll. And that's an illustration of the quality of the teachers that are traditional from this high school. They were not judgmental. They accepted me not for what I did, but because I was me. They were understanding. I was never a good student. And I graduated in 1949, and there were 49 students in the class, and I was ranked 49th. They let me graduate, and I went off to school because my brothers all came home from the Army, and they said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I guess I'll stay and work for Maude Leonard in the greenhouse." And they said, "Well, you come to college too." So I did, and I have no idea how I got in except for a letter from Jorgie, the principal. Roy Jorgensen here wrote a letter to the University of Minnesota, and that's how I got in school. And then I found right away I thought I would become a petroleum engineer. Am I talking too long? My family isn't here tonight, so I can talk all the time. But I had to take a math replacement test, and the math teacher here in Sac City High School was Laverne Clark. And Mrs. Clark always had a nice smile for me, understanding that I never did my homework and I never knew how to do quadratic equations, and I couldn't do anything in algebra anyway. So I took the math test, and they said I'd have to start all over, sub-freshman mathematics, and so engineering was out for me. And eventually I went off to the Army, and then shortly after I was in the Army, the corporal got shot, and they said, "Lovrien, you're the corporal." And then a couple of weeks later, the sergeant got shot, and they said, "Lovrien, you're the sergeant." Soon after that, the lieutenant got shot, and they said, "Would you like to be the lieutenant?" And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" And they said, "After the war, you have to go to officers' training school." Well, I had received another letter at that time, and that was from one of my old teachers, who said, "You should think about going to medical school." So when I went before the board for the officers, I suddenly turned it out, "I'm going to go to medical school," and turned down the battlefield commission, and that's how I got to be a doctor. But it was kind of a tragedy, because when I ended up finishing medical school, I was $400 in debt, and I didn't know how I'd ever pay that money off. But fortunately, my supervisor was also where I became employed at the University of Oregon in Portland. He was also from Iowa, and so he understood how Iowans think. And he told me he was 50 years old before he ever got his student debt paid off. And so I have a lot of respect and really reverence for the quality of education that comes out of places like Sac City High School. They have always had high esteem for and recognition for education, which in my estimation is the only way to solve the world's problems. And I think that we have a tendency in this country to be irrational at times, and I can't always respond positively to some of the things we do. But anyway, I've had a great career, a great life, and there are very few weeks that have gone by in my life, although I haven't been back to school for 62 years. Just about every week there's a thought that goes through my mind that came from Sac City. And so it's been something that really, when you're a young person, you have no idea who your model is, who's building your character. And the teachers and the fellow students in the school gave me great incentive. The main quality I received from this school was self-esteem. They never put me down because I was a bad actor, because I was a bad actor. But they always praised the good parts about me, which gave me confidence. I never had ever questioned that I could do anything I wanted to do, because I had confidence in myself that I got from this school. And so I'll never forget that. And I guess that's the end of my lecture. Thank you for having me.